Hi guys, my name's Colin Downt from www.cgdownt.com. I'm a horror writer of fiction, supernatural thrillers and so forth. Feel free to pop over to my site, download a few books, some of them are free. I'm here today to talk about Amazon's relatively new paperback service, so you can create paperbacks of your ebook equivalents. So some of the things to kind of sort of watch out for, a few kind of few sort of concerns really, but nothing kind of major. Okay, so first of all, when you go to your Kindle Direct Publishing, obviously go to your bookshelf and you obviously have a list of your books. Now, one thing you may have noticed is sometimes if you make amendments to your books, you may have already seen on offer or pop up to say, create a paper. Do you wish to create a paperback version of your book? Whether or not you've explored that, I don't know. But what you will see when you come into your bookshelf now for your kind of books, obviously these are my books, is here you see paperback actions. Now I've got edit details because I've already created paperback versions, but what you will see here is probably a button that says like paperback, create paperback or something like that. So what I'm going to do is just going to go into edit one of them, just so you can sort of get a brief idea of what you kind of sort of expect really. So click on edit details, but of course for the first time you'll be clicking on paperback. Okay, so obviously you select your language, select your book, series of books. You can enter a series name here and a series number. I mean, obviously, as it says here, that's kind of sort of optional. So, edition number, authors. So obviously that's me, Colin Downt, primary author. Anybody who's contributed to obviously the writing or production of the book. This is pretty much the same sort of setup as you would have in your ebooks at this point. So anybody who's submitted obviously ebooks to Amazon, these screens will look fairly familiar up until now. Obviously put in your keywords, your categories, as I said, exactly the same pretty much up to this point where you would be creating some ebooks. Okay, then you go to the next screen, paperback content. Shows you obviously the publication date. Now this is where it starts to differ from the ebook process of getting an ebook onto Amazon. Here it will give you the option, do you want to do it black and white or interior paper cream, and obviously various options, color interior with white paper. I've chosen this option, it defaults to this option. One thing you should kind of sort of be aware of really is that Amazon do have experience obviously in what works for and what doesn't kind of for paperbacks. And so you should really try and keep to their defaults where you can. If you really want to change it, do so. But the reason they've set some of these settings as defaults is that they believe that this is what works best. These are optimal, what they believe to be the optimal settings for your books. Okay, and you have here the trim size 6x9. Trim size, if you go into it, will show you. Trim size is an area, a boundary that they will trim the book back to. So you can specify the trim size. I keep it to this. No bleed as well. Paperback cover finish. I've tried the matte and the gloss. The gloss works well for non-fiction. Okay. And fiction tends to have matte on a paperback, and I think it looks better than gloss in my opinion when you're creating that. And obviously you can upload then a paperback manuscript. Now here, this is some things you have to watch out for. You can download a KDP template. Okay. Now, when you upload in a manuscript, this is kind of what it will look like. I'm going to switch over to my Word document at this point. Obviously, it's reduced to 60%. We move up to 100%. Essentially, that's what we'll kind of look like. The title. Scroll down. You've got contents page. Well, you've got chapter 1. So on and so forth. The default size for this default set is Gaumont, and they have 11 point. I switch it to 12 point. Now the reason I switch it to 12 point is that I just find it a lot easier to read, a lot easier on the eyes than 12 point. And one of the pages that you will see when you download their template is obviously this page, a contents. So you put the page, obviously the chapter at which each page starts. Now I've removed a couple of pages from this the template. I've removed the acknowledgements page and the dedication page because I don't see I need those. So what you will see here, let's reduce it slightly. So bring in some of the pages here to 3 pages. Okay, so you'll have obviously a title page, a copyright page, contents page, and we move to the main body of the story. chapter 1. Now, what I find really useful is when you're copying using a template, essentially it will appear like this with a few additional pages, as I said, acknowledgements page and so forth, and dedication page, which I've chosen to remove, but you can keep those if you wish. Now, the body of the text here, what it will have in the template is simply copy your text here, or word to that effect, paste your text here, and it will just replicate that, paste your text here, like 1,000 times all those words, and you literally just replace that text with your text. Now, for the most part, that works quite well. But you do have to watch your spacing when you start copying your own text into this. It will start mucking about with the formatting options, formatting just a little bit. I use this, the paragraph break show, so it shows you what the carriage returns, everything as well. And I do that so that I can get consistency, so that I know exactly how many carriage returns, so forth, from the top of the page to the chapter, how many spaces there are, or it will be white space obviously when these are removed, how many spaces there are essentially between the chapter heading and the first line of the page. Okay, I just find it a lot easier. Now you can change that. You can have generally it should be maybe a third of the way down the page or so, the chapter heading. Okay, but you can change that. They are fairly flexible on what font you have and what style of font you have as well. So I keep it to Garamond, and I change it from 11 to 12 point because I find it a lot easier. Now, one of the things you do need to be aware of here is that if we look at here, look at the headers specifically. These are first page headers, so there's nothing on here. So by default, let's go back to here. Let's get rid of this. So it's getting in the way. These are first page headers. Now, I'll tell you why I mentioned that. If we move down to where you've got chapters, now you can see that on each page you have alternating book title and the author's name, and that would appear on every page. Book title, okay, book title, author's name. Now, okay, and that will be by default if you use their template, which is kind of what you want. So if you click into that, you can see here you'll have different first page, which I showed you. The first page had a first page header. Okay, you have different odd and even pages. Okay, so as soon as what you'll have, you'll just replace that, what is in there, with your name, and then it will show on every other page. You then move to the next page and replace what is in there, their template, with your book title, and that will show on the other page. Now, what I found, and I've done this several times now, and every single time when I've copied my text into this template, what happens is that initially you will also have either the name or the title appearing here at the header on the first page of each chapter. Now, anybody who knows anything about sort of paperbacks will know that you should not have a header on the first page that begins a new chapter. So move down to chapter 2, let's move down to, say for instance, chapter 3. You see there's nothing there. There is here the title, you hear obviously your author's name, here nothing. And that's the way it should be. And it took me a while. Perhaps people out there who know a lot about Word and so forth know how to correct this, but it took me a while to actually figure out how to remove, because initially what it would do, it will place either your name or the book title here, depending on what precedes it. Okay, and it took me a while to figure out how to remove it from here without removing it from every single page, because what was happening is that I was removing it essentially from here, and then it would remove it from every single page, or I'd try to black it out from here and it would black it out from every single page. So for you, those you don't know, I'm just going to sort of go over briefly what you would need to do if you're in a situation where you're copying your text into their template, and after which you've got your title in one page, and alternating pages you have your obviously your author's name, but then you've got the problem of either your author name or the book title shown on the header or the first page of each chapter, which is what you do not want. Okay, so the way around that, okay, is first of all scroll to the top of the document and make sure that there's nothing showing in the header of the first page, okay, or indeed the second page or third page, but most certainly the first page. Now, if you click into the header, you will see here it says first page header section. That's what you want to see, first page header. So make sure, first of all, that page 1 is showing that. Okay. Then what we do is that you scroll down. You scroll down to the chapters. Okay, so you scroll down to the first page of your chapter. Okay, let's mark it up again with the paragraph so we can see. Now what you need to do is create a section break. You can see here in the previous page there is a section break. So basically what you need to do is to create a new section that begins each new chapter. So the first page of each new chapter is a new section. Now for a new section, Word will then perceive that first page of that new section as page 1. They will not interfere with the page numbering. Chapter 2, chapter 3, or whatever it is, it will still be numbered sequentially. But from Word's perspective, when you create a new section, the first page of that new section will have a first page header. Okay, so this is essentially what you do. If you want the header to be removed from the first page of each chapter, mark it. Okay, so just click inside to the cursor. Move to page layout. Move to breaks and click on continuous. Okay, so it'll be continuous. Insert a section break and start a new section on the same page. Okay, now when you click on that, what it will do, it will then insert a section break at the bottom of the previous page to tell Word that the next page, this page here on chapter 1, will be a new page. As soon as you do that, the very second you do that, that header, whatever's in that header, will disappear. And the reason for that is if then you click in the header, it will be showing first page header, because it's treating this as a new section, and the first page of that new section, that will then conform to the first page header that we looked up at the very first page on the book title, and it will conform to whatever is in the first page header, which is nothing. Okay, and then you do exactly the same thing. So we scroll down to chapter 2. Mark your area with a cursor, okay, at the top of the page. Again, you'll go to page layout, you'll go to breaks, you'll click on continuous, okay, section break continuous. That will insert a section break on the previous page to tell Word that on the very next page, which is the first page of that chapter, is to be treated as a new section. As such, it will be the first page of that new section and will then conform to the first page header, as shown here. And we know that on the first page, because we saw that at the beginning of the document, there was nothing in that header, so there will be nothing in his header. And that's how you proceed, and you proceed that way right through the document. Let's turn this off for a second. Right through the document. So that's what you'll have. Right through the document. So that's how you remove any unwanted kind of sort of anything. Remove that header from the first page of each chapter. Okay. Now what you do then is once you've done all that and you've saved it, you upload your manuscript. So as you saw there, it needs to be kind of sort of in single spaced anyway, but there are guidelines here. But I felt they need to kind of sort of just mention that with regards to the footers, because I found that quite a bit of a bugbear when I was using their templates, copying my text into the templates, and it would still create headers where I didn't want them. Okay. Now the next stage obviously would be to the launch cover creator. Now, so I'm going to do this. I'm actually going to launch cover creator here. Okay, so obviously it does take a while to load. It might be quick on other people's PCs than it is on mine. But I have found that sometimes with their cover creator, and especially when you go into previewing it to actually make sure that everything is as you want it to be, I have found that sometimes it does crash out, it does hang. I don't know whether or not that's a problem with me. I don't think so. I mean, I've tried it. I'm okay with everything else. So, I'm guessing that it is a problem sometimes with their service, in that it does take a while to update, does take a while to load. Sometimes it does hang, sometimes it does crash out. Okay, so it's finally loaded, and this is the cover that I kind of have in place. Now you can choose your design. Now there's several ways. Let's go back to this. There's several ways you can do this. Okay, you can either create the cover fully yourself, absolutely from scratch. Okay, and it provides you a template to do this. Okay, or you can use one of their covers. So you can actually choose a design, and you can actually upload an image of there. So you can choose a design. Okay, which is how it's going to sort of appear on the cover itself, irrespective of the kind of sort of picture or image or whatever it is that you use. Or you can actually create your own cover fully from scratch. I found that exceptionally difficult to do. Or you can create a balance, kind of sort of like a compromise really, where you use part of their cover and part of your cover. If you've already uploaded an ebook, obviously to Amazon, you should have a front cover in place anyway. So what I do is that I use my front cover along with one of their designs and their back covers and spines and so forth. Okay, I find that quite a good balance. So choose a design. Okay, and what you can do, you can change the color here. So you can choose the colors to change the backgrounds and so forth. And what you do, if you click here, it gives you the option to choose a new cover image. Now what you can do when you choose a new cover image, you can choose one of their covers in their library, or you can actually obviously navigate to where you've saved your image for your cover, obviously for your ebook, and you can upload that. Okay, now, and that's it. When it uploads it, and then it puts everything in place here. What you need to do is create a blurb. Okay, you need to a little bio about yourself as well, and an image. But you see, you just click it, and you can edit image, navigate to where you've saved maybe a profile picture, and upload that. Here, you can't actually upload anything on here. What you need to do is copy and paste it. So you enter this section here, and literally maybe go to your Word, if you created it in Word, copy it from there, come back to here, and literally paste it into this section here, paste it into this section here. Now, a word about these grids here, these white grid and the red grid. Now the red grid, so the white grid is considered to be the trim area. So anything outside of this white dotted line will be trimmed back in production. Okay. Now they advise, and I actually advise against this, but they advise not to take your image picture. If you click on it, you can actually drag it. Okay. You can resize it, but you can't resize it horizontally or vertically. You can only resize it proportionately, horizontally and vertically, by using the corners to drag it out. And that is a potential problem, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But for now, they advise not to take your image over this white dotted line, okay, because anything over that would be cut off. However, you have to be very, very, very precise. If it isn't exactly on that dotted line, then when your book is actually delivered, when it's produced, the physical version of it, it will show a slight margin there, a black margin, obviously if you have a black background or whatever. So I would advise stretching the cover, resizing the cover so it's actually taken right to the edge of the book. That way you can absolutely guarantee that when it's trimmed back to this white line here, that your image will be cover to cover on the physical cover. Now here's a bit of the drawback, and this is where this red section, this red line, this red boundary comes into play. Okay, the white boundary is for the cover. Okay, nothing really should exceed that, but it can, and I would advise you doing that, as I've just said. The red line is for the actual text within that cover. So obviously that would be your title, that would be obviously any blurb that you have, and obviously your book name. Now they say that no wording can actually cross this red line. So the image should be up to the white line, but can extend past that, but anything past that will be chopped. However, if any wording is found to exceed this red line, then it will get bounced back to you. When you actually come to save it, when you actually come to preview it, which I'll do in a minute, it does a bit of quality checking. It checks your margins, checks formatting, check alignment, and it may come back okay, even if you have your wording slightly over this red line. But what will probably happen is that it will go under review, like with anything that you do in Amazon relating to your books. Even if you make a slightest change, it will be in a pending review, and then it will come back and say, nope, sorry, it needs correcting, and then it will obviously tell you why. Now here's the thing: when you extend your cover to get the image from edge to edge, it obviously extends the text as well. So you're in danger of, when you're extending a cover, of inadvertently extending the text so it exceeds the right line. Now I had this trouble specifically with this book, Skin Deep, where the title is actually longer than this. So I've had to amend the title to shorten it to ensure that when I extend the cover so that it's edge to edge, that the writing within that cover does not extend over this red line. Okay, so that's all you need. What you need to remember. The image can extend past the white line, but anything past that will be cut. But by making sure that you do extend it past the white line, you can be sure that you're going to have full edge-to-edge coverage on that physical cover. But be aware that any text on that cover cannot exceed the red dotted line. Now, here's the thing about spine. Okay, you can create your own spine on your full covers. I don't see any reason for that. As I said, there is a template you can use to actually fully create your own cover, create your back, create the spine. But the measurements and alignments and the requirements are very, very specific. Okay, and I found it a headache to do that. So you just create your own head spine. So literally just click and amend the text, change the style. Now, a word about the spine. Okay, if you have a book that is under 100 pages, it will not create a spine. Okay, that's what they say. However, I have found that if you have a book that is even exactly 100 pages or under, it still won't create a spine. Okay, so a book, a story without a spine, to me is not a paperback. It's just a pamphlet. Okay, which obviously is not going to work. Okay, so in order to make sure that you have a spine in your book, ideally you need to make sure that you have a book that is in the region of about 120 or so pages. So even though a spine will be created for any book over 100 pages, in order to have a fairly decent sized spine, so that the paperback doesn't look, looks decent, okay, it needs to be in a region of about 118, 120 or so pages. Now, what you might need to do if your book, if your page count is not that, you might need to actually increase your font size from, say, 11 to 12, which is what I did. Now, I increased it to 12 because I like 12, because I found that easier to read. But by increasing, obviously, your font size, what you're doing is that you're beefing out the book, you're expanding the book, okay? You're increasing the page count of the book. Now, don't use this as some kind of marketing ploy, thinking that if you beef out the book by expanding the font size, you can charge more for it. Because Amazon's pricing is that they have a baseline price for the production of your book, but then they charge you cost per page. So obviously, the more pages you have, the more it's going to cost you. So if you have a book that's under 100 pages, you won't have a spine. Now, I think a spine is essential for a paperback. But if you increase that font size, for instance, to increase the page count, you will actually increase the cost of the book of production to you, which presumably then you would need to pass on to your prospective customer. You need to pass on, obviously, to any potential reader. So just be aware of that. That anything under 100 pages, no spine will be created. It needs to be in the region of about 118, 120 pages for a decent spine. Okay, but be aware that whatever you do to increase your page count will also increase the cost of production, page per cost. Okay, so just be aware of that. So what we're going to do now is just, once you've got all this in place, you preview it. You see how quickly this updates. You see, sometimes when I've been in here, it's taken a while, frustratingly so. But let's see how quick it is now. Okay, so it saved it. So then check it, make sure everything's okay. You'll have a chance to preview it. Okay. Okay, so that's done. For some reason, I don't know about anybody else, but it always takes me to the top of the page regardless. If I made the change even at the bottom of the page, it would take me back to the top of the page. Now, this section here, Launch Previewer. Okay, so preview your file to check for formatting and print quality. I would strongly advise doing this, because even though We've just seen it, it kind of looks okay when you see it in its full spread, back, spine and front. Launching Previewer gives you quite some really good kind of sort of options and really good kind of sort of viewing kind of sort of orientations there. So if we have a launch Previewer, so this is what it says, this is good here, a print ready file. So be aware of how it displays here, or in a moment when we preview it, how it displays here will be exactly how it will be displayed when you get actually the physical copy of it. Right, so obviously you can see here it's just going through obviously the various options that it's done. You just check the formatting, review of any images, read the book to identify. So it's asking you to do it. So it does a certain degree of sort of quality checking and everything yourself, but you know, obviously it kind of sort of expects you to go over the book here. One thing I didn't mention is here it's showing my ISBN number. When you produce a book, it will give you the option at the very beginning for you to use one of their ISBN numbers. So it'll give you the option, you know, for Amazon to generate an basically a book number for you, international standard book number for you. Now, and you simply that is what you use. That will be on your book, and they will automatically enter that information on your book once it's been assigned to your book. Now, if you've published your work elsewhere, for instance, say for instance Smashwords, Smashwords will issue you with an ISBN number as well, or they can do. Now, that will probably be for an ebook version. What you don't do is take that ISBN number from your ebook version somewhere else and use it here. Okay, it's very specific to the format of your book, whether it be an ebook or paperback. So you can purchase ISBN numbers, but allow Amazon to generate one for you, and just use that one. Just use the one that they give you for that. Right, and this is what you come to when you come to preview it. Okay, so it allows you to view 2 pages, 1 page, allows you to view 3D. 3D is good. Switch to the 3D model. Okay, and you can obviously move this, use the arrows, and it gives you very, very good idea actually of how your book will look when it arrives to you. Another thing which I would advise doing is to use the full width. Okay, so use that kind of sort of magnification tool really, and choose travel along its edge here and see whether or not you can see anything out of place. Especially now, remember this area here, that's outside of that area. So what you need to concentrate on to determine exactly where the edge lies, because sometimes it can get a bit confusing as to whether or not the edge is here or the edge is here, and is this area here going to be a blank space that's going to be shown on a physical book. When you get to this section here, when you get to the page here where the back cover kind of sort of meets the front cover, that's what you need to pay attention to. Make sure that these two are correctly aligned. Okay, make sure they're correctly aligned here. And then what you can do and what you should do is literally go through every single page in turn. So click here, contents, page loading, make sure that everything is as it should be with regards to chapter 1, you know, no headers showing there, chapter 2, so forth. And of course each chapter should be on a new page, ideally third of the way down the page, and obviously on the new page as well. Okay, and you literally just go through the entire process, and once you've reached the end of the book and you're absolutely happy with what you're seeing, and say check the details here. So yes, it's skin deep, conning down, ISBN number. As I said, that's what will be assigned to you, assigned to your book. At the very beginning, you can ask Amazon to generate an ISBN number for you, and then you click approve. Okay, approve your proof. So please approve your proof. If it meets expectations for printing, you can continue publishing your book after you approve. Okay. So you click on that. Okay. Now, obviously, what we do, that's the ISBN number here in this section here. Okay. And it says get a free ISBN, get a free KDP ISBN number. So, or you can use your own. But remember, when you use your own, you can't take it from another platform, especially from another format from another platform. Okay, so and again, move down to the bottom. We've covered all this section here. This is obviously the price, so you can set your own price and so forth. And it would tell you obviously the settings here. Save and continue. We're actually moving on to the pricing now. On the next section, it will move on to the pricing. So done. Okay. Here, blah blah blah. Now what it would do, it will tell you the minimum amount that you need to price your book at in order for you to basically kind of sort of make any profit. Okay, so as soon as you enter a price in here, it will, okay, let's cover that. Right. The minimum list price is calculated based on your book's printing cost. It ensures that your royalties earned are always enough to cover the cost of the print of your book. That is extremely helpful. It will always ensure that we never run a negative cost. My concern initially was that, do I pay Amazon up front? What if I don't sell enough copies to cover the cost of production? They will always make sure that you have enough money to cover the cost of production, that what Amazon will charge you will cover the cost of production. Whatever you enter after that will be profit. Okay, but profit to you and Amazon. Remember that on a paperback, Amazon will take, I think it's about 60%. So you take about 60% of that profit. They take 40%. Whereas with an ebook, a Kindle ebook, you can earn 70% if it's priced $2.99 or over, and obviously they get 30%. So it's slightly different here. But the good thing is they will always tell you what the minimum cost you will need to, what the minimum price is for your book would need to be in order for you to cover the cost of production. So you'd always make sure that you will never be owing them any money. And then once you've set the price and so forth, it can take 72 hours. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. I think that's their kind of sort of standard sort of response time, really, I guess, for any change that is made. Sometimes it can take far less than that. Okay, and you publish your book. One thing I will say here is that sometimes, yes, it can take 72 hours, but it'll take 72 hours for it to feed through and link to your other books. So when they say 72 hours, they don't necessarily mean 72 hours for it to be available for you to view. It means for 72 hours for it to work through the entire system, for it to be linked with every other kind of format that you have, if it's like for an audiobook version of it or for an ebook version of it. What I found really helpful is that the very second you click publish your book, okay, you'll see it will probably say pending review. Okay, I would recommend contacting Amazon, telling them what you've done, and asking them to link. Okay, it can take up to 48 hours. Okay, it says here. Okay, so it can take up to 12 hours for the English and 48 hours. To be honest, all these are very rough guidelines. Sometimes it's been made available within 12 hours or so. But the first time I did this, it didn't actually link to my Amazon book for about my Amazon ebook for about 4 days. Okay, so what I find very useful is the very second you click on that, move down, it will say, okay, paperback, continue setup. That will be grayed out because it's actually under review now by Amazon. I'd recommend contacting them and asking them to link your paperback version to your ebook version. Okay, that way, as soon as that becomes active again, and that means obviously you'll get an email to say that your book is now available. As soon as that happens, it should also be linked to your ebook version. It just saves a lot of time waiting, potentially like 2-3 days or so, for your paperback to be linked to your ebook version. And that's it. That's generally the process. Well, thank you very much for listening. If you have any further questions, obviously feel free to email me. So you can contact me at www.cgdown.com. There's a contact form there where you can email me with any questions. I say check out these books, subscribe. Okay, thank you.